But g'day, welcome back. This should be live. Hopefully, it's live. We'll soon see. But and hopefully, I shouldn't get a copyright strike for this type of live content. But I put up a post. I shared this screenshot of this comment, which I saw this morning, and I put up a post on there. I've added a link to a short 3-minute clip of the Sydney 2GB news media. I think it's titled "National Shame and the Treatment or the Poor Treatment of Soldiers over in the Australian Defence Force." I think probably more specifically to do with the SF side of things around SASR and the commandos. But this comment was in one of the shorts videos that I put up recently in regards to, I think it was Just Be a Good Person video. And some of the footage I've got in there is some of the troubles that they've been having in Australia for a while now with all the machete attacks. And tragically, there was a young fella that got killed trying to protect the 14-year-old boy that was being attacked by a group of machete-wielding teenagers. And in that video, I think it's fairly short, like just be a good person, not because it's easy, but because the world's got enough dickheads, or because there's enough dickheads in the world, basically. And this person, old mate, old at jbank66 or at jbank66, depending on where you're from, threw this comment in there. And I saw it and I thought, wow, there are still some people out there that can't be bothered doing a little bit of research, or have just got this weird perception or perspective that soldiers, or maybe it's just geared towards SAS soldiers, that they are just that they're just idiots, and they couldn't be further from the truth. And here's somebody I just thought, wow, this guy won't be alone, right? There'll probably be people that will come across this live video, watch it and go, yeah, I agree with what that guy's saying. For whatever reason, I would be willing to bet that at jbank66 or 66 and people like him have likely never served at all, have no idea what it's like to deploy overseas and or to be in situations where you're under constant threats and out going into high risk areas where there's a high chance of being in contact and a high possibility that you and or your mates might not all be coming home on this task today, and that being a daily occurrence. But reading this comment, and I'm just going to read it out here, he's put, "You should send this video to the troopers who went around shooting dogs and unarmed Afghan farmers in fields, LOL," which I assume is laugh out loud. Then he's got, "Attacking random civilians isn't somehow moral just because someone else sent you to go do it." What I'll like, that's that second part of your comment first. I agree with you 100%. Like, randomly attacking civilians isn't moral at all. It's not right. It's not the thing to do. But just on that comment, that second part, if I dial into that for a second, it's just been on my mind and I've been thinking, man, sometimes, usually I'll just put laughing faces and go, oh, whatever, your ball bag, blinking, and just carry on, do my own thing. But this comment's really just sat with me for a while, and I've gone, man, you know what? I'm going to probably do a video, or I'm probably going to do a live. I started getting ready to just do a recorded video, and I thought, you know what, stuff it. I'll just do it live, because then I can just vent, for want of a better term, and talk about it while things are racing through my mind right now. But to that second part, if you think that the ADF, so look at it this way, to join the ADF or any military, there's an application process. Then there's a series of tests that you have to do: aptitude, psychological testing, medical tests, drug and alcohol, a whole bunch of things, steps that you have to go through. That's just to get onto the start line for basic training. Then you go to basic training, however long that is these days, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever it is. And you're being assessed, and you've got to meet requirements physically, mentally, like aptitude-wise, etc. Then if you get through that, then you go typically off to your core training. So whatever you joined the army for, whether it's to be an infantry, to be a medic, to be an engineer, driver, whatever, you then go off and go to that trade to do your training. And that may be another 12 weeks or, 3 months or longer, depending. Then once you've gone through those, the application, the basic training, your core training, you've made it into the Defence Force. And sort of like, okay, now I'm in. And you start applying your craft in the unit that you're in, whatever. Then if you want to go to a place like SASR as an example, because you've used the word troopers, I'm assuming you're talking about SASR, you've then got to apply again. You've got to apply, go through the processes, make sure that you can meet the prerequisites, go through aptitude testing again, albeit a different type usually, go through psychological evaluation, which again is at another level. Sometimes you might not even have to do, or you may not, I'm not sure how it is these days, but the psychological evaluation will typically be different from your regular military sign-up and more intense, more scrutiny with that. That's, if you get through that, then you just get onto the start line of the first phase. So during my time was a barrier test, went for 3 days. You had to get through that barrier testing over those 3 days and perform well enough so that you could earn a spot on the actual selection. So then if you get to the selection, so we're sort of 5 steps deep so far, and we're still nowhere near being an actual member in the unit. If you get to the selection, then you're being assessed and under scrutiny constantly. In Australia, the 21 days or the 3 weeks, just constant, being worn down physically, broken down, etc., mentally, just a whole bunch of uncertainty, everything happening whilst you are expected to apply the knowledge and information that you receive and perform the tasks to as high a standard as you can, while still maintaining your physical ability, while maintaining your technical proficiency and competency with regards to tasks that you're given to do. Whole bunch of stuff happening. Then if you get through selection and then you get accepted to progress onto further training or the reinforcement cycle, then that's another 12 months or more worth of more intensive scrutiny, course after course after course, training and assessment, and you're constantly being spoken about by the directing staff. You'll do typically buddy ratings and assess each other, who you would most like to go to war with, and that will be based on a whole bunch of things: how candidates are performing, the alignment on your morals and values, all of that sort of stuff, integrity, etc. So it's sort of 6 steps deep right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know of any other organization that goes to that length or invests that much time, effort, and energy into assessing the individuals that go on and serve in the unit, that I'm aware of anyway. If there is another organization outside of the Special Forces area that applies those types of processes and steps to their recruitment process, I don't know what those other organizations are outside of the military and those SF sort of pipelines. So you get through all of that, and then you finally, make it into the unit, go to a Sabre squadron, get posted. You're telling me that somehow through all of that, they haven't clocked, by and large, the amount of lemons or the idiots that are just not suitable for that work long before you get to a squadron, long before you deploy on operations, long before you're confronted or go into contact. It just seems a bit weird. Seems very uneducated in terms of the comment that's on there. One of the lads, Dazza, put on there, simpleton. Probably is a simpleton, the person that's put this comment here. But if you do a little bit of research into the steps and processes, or if you go back and have a listen to what I've just tried to spit out of my brain right now and spit out of my face with regards to the steps that are taken and the rigor around selecting people to make it into a unit like the SAS, hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea that they're not taking any shortcuts, They're not, it's not like a lolly scramble where they're just throwing berets out and whoever manages to catch one and grab one, oh yeah, cool, you'll do, we'll take you and you can come into the unit. There's a massive amount of work behind the scenes, front of the scenes, done by the individual, done by the directing staff, done by independent, university qualified, degree qualified psychologists who they bring in. And so they've got a nice wide pool of perspectives and opinions and skills and expertise that enables them more often than not to select the right people to go into that type of work, because they understand the dangers of that job, the high potential for risk to be deployed on operations and to be confronted with highly stressful situations and highly dangerous situations whereby the safety of not only yourself, but those that you're with and potentially civilians in that area can come down to split seconds, So that they're not taking shortcuts is what I'm trying to get at there. And so I agree, attacking random civilians, there's no morality in that at all. That's not brave, that's not courageous. There's nothing in that that is good. So I can agree with you there. But if you think that that's what the SAS is recruiting and doing when they deploy on operations, bro, you, clearly it's an uneducated and or a lack of choosing to ask some questions and have a little bit of a look into what it is and the steps that are required to make it into a unit like that. So whether you've just gobbled up all the news from airing BS constantly or the ABC News over in Australia, whether you've just lapped up all the Four Corners documentaries or the other ABC stuff, including the stuff around Heston Russell and the November Platoon and the Commandos, etc., if you've just been gobbling all that sort of stuff up without taking a step back and having a look and going, oh, actually, Heston, for example, proved that they doctored and added more gunshots into various video footage. Oh, heck, ABC paid a $700,000 bribe to a key witness in the Ben Robert Smith defamation case. The list goes on with regards to, I suppose, the media and their portrayal of what they believe to be the truth and what they believe people need to hear and know. So, yeah, it's struck me that there is likely hundreds, thousands, dare I say, millions of people that have the size of a blinking pea, like this ball bag here at JBank66 with regards to the comments. Coming up to the first part, you should send this to the troopers who went around shooting dogs and unarmed Afghan farmers in fields. LOL. Maybe to a degree in that point there when you're talking about send it to the troopers, maybe you're not brandishing the whole of the Special Air Service Regiment with the same brush. Maybe you're talking about specific troopers that somehow you've got information of, and maybe you know who they are. Let me tell you this: if you know who they are, let me know. Put it in the comments, name them, provide me with the information that you've got. Show me where their convictions have come about and how I would assume they then should be named, right? They should then be out in the public domain for you, for we, for us to know who they are. Here's what I've seen so far, and what, if you'll spend the time on that 3-minute video clip that I put in the response to the Sydney 2GB radio news, or maybe their television media, I'm not sure. I think their news, radio news. If you take the time to listen to that, you'll hear a whole bunch of stuff. And let me just try and regurgitate some of that from memory. He talks about the more than $250 million, not $250,000, but $250 million. So more than $250 million has been spent in this more than 10 years long, more than 10 years investigation into illegal activities, war crimes that have taken place or that have allegedly taken place in Afghanistan. What have we seen for that more than $250 million investment? What have we seen after more than 10 years of investigation? We've seen there's been one charge and no conviction. So a charge has been, at least as far as I know today, there is one charge that's been laid and no conviction of that, and nothing else from a war criminals going around randomly attacking civilians, shooting unarmed farmers, etc., etc. More than 10 years. You're telling me the Australian Federal Police, the lawyers and whoever else they've got involved, the money that's been invested into investigating, whether it's SAS troopers, whether it's commando operators, whether it's soldiers in general, but we'll stick with the SF narrative because that's what's been put out there. You're telling me that they've found nothing other than one charge, no convictions, and nobody else. If you listen to that 3-minute clip, it talks about more than 400 soldiers, I think, from the SAS, which would pretty much be the whole regiment around that time, all the squadrons included, painted with the same brush. More than 200 soldiers questioned, and more than 50 soldiers told that they are, or were told that they were under investigation. Now, whether or not they're still under investigation, I don't know. So there's all of that that's been happening. 400, 200 plus down to 50. Cool. You've still only got one not conviction. You've still only got one charge, and you've still got 0 convictions. And it's crazy to me that you've got numpties like this ball bag here again at JBank66 who sit back, got no experience, got no idea what it's like or what these soldiers have gone through, deploying multiple times and doing what they've done, to sit back in the safety of your armchair and then put down a comment like this. Real ignorant and real stupid is how that comment that you've put comes across to me anyway. So maybe it comes across as clear as mud to other people that are aligned with your thoughts, but mate, give yourself 10 good uppercuts and go and have a blinking bit of a gander in terms of what information is out there at the moment. If you've got the receipts in terms of here's the people that have been charged and here's their names and here's where they were at the time, then send it. Send it, bro, and I'll do a reaction to it. I've done reactions to Four Corners stuff, to the Oliver Schultz one, and I think that documentary, or that one was called The Killing Fields. I've done reactions to that. I've done reactions to Ben Roberts-Smith, again, based on requests, because people were quick, again, from their armchairs to accuse somebody that they don't know. And granted, I know him, but never served with him on those jobs, in and around what they'd seen off the media. And then after getting several thousand views on those reactions that I did, for whatever reason, my videos have been blocked. Those videos have been blocked, not by me. I can still see them. I screenshotted them in the back end of the YouTube studio. And for whatever reason, YouTube won't put them up. So that's nothing to do with me. I was happy to take any comments and leave them on there. I responded to those comments that were on there. So it's not about me trying to defend and say that they're holier than thou, right? The unit. I've already mentioned multiple times, you get bad apples that get through into any organization. I don't care who runs it, where it is, how long it's been around. Lemons will inevitably get through in some way, shape, or form. And it's up to those units to blink and root that rubbish out. So if there was stuff like this, I would imagine that that stuff would have been jumped on pretty quick. Why do I say that? Well, because my experience there in the unit, seeing what I saw, observing what I observed, being a part of what I was a part of, and I've spoken about this in other reaction videos in Iraq as an example, multiple, easily more than a dozen soldiers who were actively just shooting at us, firing mortars, firing RPGs, firing small arms in mine and my team's direction, trying to take us out. Then they surrendered after one of the lads took out a couple of their vehicles, took out some of their mortar pipes as well when they were dropping the bombs and stuff down there, or the mortars into there. Took some of those base plates out with operators and stuff around them. The number that was left, they outnumbered us before. They still outnumbered us by the time they surrendered. If the shoe was on the other foot, there's no way we would have been let go. That's my honest take, and all of the guys that I served with. We took one guy for questioning and let the rest go, knowing that full well we're more than likely going to be fighting these guys again, and they're going to be better prepared, and they're going to be better equipped, and they're going to have a better understanding of how we're likely to respond. They're going to have a better understanding of the type of firepower that we have. Whole bunch of things stacked against us in that moment when my leaders, when all of us, the guys have actively stopped, put their weapons down, and their hands are up, and we don't want any more of this. Like, we're not fighting anymore. Like, take us prisoner or let us go. That's probably what they were thinking. I'm willing to bet that they probably didn't expect that we were going to let them go either. We did receive some orders before we went into country, and I've spoken about this before. We were told by the commander from the US forces at the time that they didn't have capacity to, and that they weren't going to be coming out to pick up POWs. Not unless we had Blinken, Saddam Hussein or somebody in the deck of cards, that they felt was worth coming in to get. Outside of that, it was made pretty clear that they weren't coming in to pick up any POWs. And so it was up to us, our call. And our leaders made the right call with regards to these guys have stopped fighting. Geneva Convention, we're professional soldiers. These guys, we've been in an intense battle right now. They've tried to take us out, but they're not doing that now. Will they do it later on? It's a risk we had to take, and it's a risk that we had to accept. Just like staying in country was a risk, just like deploying is a risk that we had to accept. So again, when you're talking about these troopers going in, unarmed farmers, there's a whole bunch of processes that go into selecting people that are capable, competent, have the mental aptitude, and have the psychological stability, for want of a better term, to go and be exposed to high pressure, high risk environments like that and make decisions in the fraction of a second, which can and may result in either the loss of life or saving lives, if that makes sense. So, yeah, your comment here, man, I hope, clearly you've been able to spend some time watching those 30, 45 minutes or however long they've gone for news pieces from, I assume, ABC. I like to think maybe you could spend 3 minutes watching that link that I put in the post there, and that I also put in my response to your comment. And I did call you a clown because I think you are a clown. And I did call you a clown in my reply to your comment as well. So hopefully you'll spend 3 minutes in there and have a look. Whether or not that changes your mind, for me, what I can say is, right now I don't care. Like, I've your comment has played on my mind. I've had my say. I've managed to get this piece out. I've still got a bit more that I'll talk about, and it will likely never change your mind or other people that agree with you and that are aligned with your comment. And that's okay, because if they want to take a bit more of a look, or maybe just go, oh, actually, he took the time to look at this question and really read it and digest it. He's taken the time to react to various requests on Ben Roberts-Smith, on the Killing Fields and the Oliver Schultz video. Maybe I can spend 5-10 minutes or 3 minutes looking at this link that he shared. Because in there you'll see and hear another perspective, and one of the members of Parliament in Australia, Michael, I've forgotten his surname, Michael somebody, anyway, you see him in that 3-minute clip. He's basically calling out what I think any reasonable, rational person would say. If there are charges, if there is evidence, lay the charges. But if there isn't, then, let's close this case. Like, it's been going for more than 10 years and over $250 million. And you're telling me you can't find anything else in that time? Like, what have you been spending? Excuse me. What have you been spending the money on? Where's it gone? If it's taken more than 10 years and you've spent more than $250 million, and it sounds like it's still only going to keep going up in terms of the amount of money spent, not to mention resources and time, etc., it doesn't seem like you've got much evidence to be causing the stress, the anxiety that is being placed on these soldiers. And so with that, it also talks about the suicide that soldiers have committed as a result, by and large, presumably, and in many cases, probably actually due to the investigation that's going on. And people like this guy, Jay Bank, will probably be quick to say, well, if they're innocent and haven't done anything wrong, why have they killed themselves? Real easy to sit back in an armchair and make a very basic and simple assumption around something like that, when it's not you that's having to carry that burden, and it's not you having to carry that weight, and it's not your family that's been impacted, it's not your relationship that's been impacted, it's not your integrity that's been impacted, and so on. Really easy to make a real simple statement like that without putting into context everything else and all these other things that we just don't know that the individual may be going through. Like, I think of it, and again, it's probably still not even going to scratch the surface, but I think of it this way. Here's a group of soldiers that have gone for the better part of 20 years in the global war on terror, being prepared to risk it all. And in some cases, some of those soldiers paying the ultimate price. Some coming away with physical wounds, some coming away with mental wounds, some coming away with both, and some not coming back at all. And day after day, they're going out there with the courage and resilience that they have on different tasks every day. So go and do a 3-month, 4-month, 6-month deployment. They're out there every day. Once they settle in a little bit and get into a bit of a routine and they're in their base, now it's time to work. You're working 24/7. Like, that's apart. Like, when you're resting, you're still on edge because anything could happen and you have to be ready to go. So you're resting when you can, but you're working the whole time that you're there. to get up and go outside the wire day in, day out for however long the tasks were, whether by chopper, whether by bushmaster, whether by on foot, and patrolling out into different areas, takes not only the physical resilience and ability to be able to do that, but the mental bandwidth, courage, stability, etc., to be willing to go out and face that every single day, to know that high probability that you're probably going to be in a contact, and also equally high probability that you and or members of your team may not come back, and or your whole team may not come back after this task or mission that you're going on. And to still get up and go out and do that again and again and again. To come back then home and then be, I'm making assumptions here again, be treated like war criminals or be told that you're under investigation for potential war crimes when you know you haven't done anything, and those individuals have acted with integrity and they've been prepared to go out and do what I just described earlier over and over again, now to come back and facing a completely different beast and perception and media coverage. Surely even my small brain can acknowledge and understand that there's going to be some massive psychological, emotional impact on those individuals, especially, multiply that, compound that if they're in a relationship with a spouse and they've got children, and and then their parents and siblings and all sorts of other things start to get factored in. And on the back end of some of those, based on what we've heard so far, some of those people who were told that they were under investigation, like it was almost the straw that broke the camel's back. Relationships disintegrated or destroyed as a result. If you've lost that support network because you've gone away fighting with what you believe is integrity and doing what you believe is the right thing, not saying that war is right, but going over there trying to stop the Taliban and Al Qaeda from implementing their terrorist reign and rule over people in that area by use of force and murdering their own people to try to implement that, murdering people that go against their regime, for want of a better term. And you're going over there as part of a coalition to try to prevent that and try to regain stability and try to help people so that they can lead their own country, providing training, medical supplies, food, education, etc. If that's a bad thing, then I think people like me and those that are in the military are going to sign up to serve in that capacity every day of the week, because that doesn't sound like a bad thing to me. If you can remove some of the bad players that are over there doing things to people that they shouldn't be doing, then I think that's a great thing. And if at the same time you can implement some good stuff, even better. Did it work out well? Well, no, it didn't. We all know that, but that's not what I'm getting at here. The intention of why they've gone over is to try to do good. The intention of why SASR and all the other coalitions have gone over is not to go around randomly attacking civilians, is not to go around just randomly shooting dogs for the fun of it and or shooting innocent unarmed farmers. That isn't why they've gone over there. And it's, if you are an Australian at J-Bank, it's disappointing that you would think that about members of your ADF who go away and serve not only for their mates, the people in that country, their country back home, their family members, but for people like you who then get to sit behind their keyboard, not do anything, and gob off about something that you have just no idea about, that you've never experienced, that you more than likely would not have the aptitude or the psychological stability to be able to go and serve in a job like that. You probably wouldn't have the physical capacity. I'm making an assumption there. Maybe you do. Maybe you're a blanking endurance junkie, Adonis, whatever the case might be. But clearly, if you had served in a place like that, you would know, and you wouldn't be the muppet that you are, or the clown that I've described you as, making comments like that. People may call me a clown for calling you a clown and a ball bag and a muppet and all sorts of other things. I don't care. I'm here to use my little channel to give my take on your comment, your uneducated comment, and founded on no experience at all, no lived experience other than what you've gobbled up on the media. So that's where I'm coming from with regards to that. And if you take some time to, I suppose, digest some of what's in that 3-minute clip, and if you have the time and the ability to sit and listen to my rant on here, this probably be viewed as a rant, then maybe something might get through into that bloody peanut head of yours in regards to the comments that you've just shared here. So yeah, is that about as much as what I want to talk about in regards to your comment? Videos went around shooting dogs. Oh, probably this is worth mentioning as well. I think I've mentioned this in some of the reactions. Your comments around shooting dogs, unarmed Afghan farmers. Again, you and I weren't on the ground during those situations. We didn't even see the full footage with regard to that Four Corners, the killing fields, and the Oliver Schultz segment that they chose to show. The person that they show, like, there's a number of things. It's pretty easy for the Al-Qaeda and Taliban who live in that country, dress like the locals, can easily blend in like anybody else in the area. It's no secret that the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda ruled those areas and those different little provinces to a degree that the actual civilians in those areas were too afraid to try to say, oh, hey, so-and-so over here is a baddie, come and get them, because the repercussions for them could have been equally deadly for them or their loved ones, their children, their families, etc. So for the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda and all that sort of stuff in those areas, very easy for them to mince around and get around however they like. Very easy to be shooting at coalition forces that are coming to an area and then run away, ditch the weapon, and then go, oh, I'm just an innocent farmer in the area. Now, I'm not saying that that's what happened in that Oliver Schultz case, in that Four Corners documentary that I reacted to, where he asks, do you want me to kill this, uses the C word, and he asked that question 2 or 3 times before he then proceeds to put rounds into that person, who, by all accounts, and from what you can see, appears to be unarmed, not holding anything, not pointing anything at the soldier. Who knows if that person was calling in and had comms, if they had a weapon, if they were shooting first, then ran away, and then they got to that stage where the dog caught them, and now all of a sudden they've got nothing on them. I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. Neither did you. So unless you were there, you know, those sorts of comments, unless there's evidence that comes out and people testify and say, well, actually, this was just a brutal act of murder, and the person, we saw this person, they clearly had nothing to do with what was happening. None of that has come out, right? As far as I know, none of that has come out. You ask the local Afghans, which ABC are good at doing, of course, they're going to say, yeah, he was just a farmer. He was just innocent. Again, that may be the case, but are they going to come out and say, no, he was actually Taliban or Al-Qaeda? Are they going to come out and say that if they know that they are being watched, if they know that at the drop of the hat, those particular organizations will murder people in that village or in that area? They're probably not. They're probably not going to say that, eh? They're probably just going to say, yeah, line up with what the ABC is trying to put out there. Yeah, he was innocent. He was just old Bob from down the road with his farm. And the Australian soldiers just came in and killed him for no reason. They're probably going to say that. Again, I wasn't on the ground. Don't know. We don't see all the footage or everything that could potentially help us or help maybe the courts even formulate a better understanding of what was happening. Maybe all that footage is there somewhere. So if it is, maybe it'll come out. But that would be good. I mean, if they're using the cameras and it's already been recording, it must have recorded all the other stuff, right? I assume. So hopefully they've got that. The other part in and around dogs, people usually have dogs for early warning and or for protection. Maybe in Western countries, probably got them for companionship as well, or first world countries, maybe more for companionship and early warning, protection as well. But when you've got those dogs and stuff there, if there is intel that they are potentially filled with diseases, and if they're coming at you and potentially going to bite you or your mates and or your dog, I can tell you now, I'm dropping that other dog if it's coming towards looking to attack. If it's tied, secured, and it's just sitting there, or even if it's just off on the side somewhere and it's doing nothing to us, I've got no interest in shooting a dog for no reason. I don't even go out hunting, just recreationally. If I was going to go out hunting and kill something, I'd be wanting to collect and have harvest all that meat or that food and store it so that we can actually use it and eat it. But I'm not a sport hunter. I'm not somebody that goes, and the guys that I went out and served with, they're not people that just go out and go, oh, I think I'll shoot some dogs today. So there's likely reasons for it, if it's going to attack them or their mates or their own dog. Otherwise, I haven't seen any footage of soldiers from SASR randomly walking into villages and just popping animals, right? So even in Iraq, I shot warning shots at dogs that were like coming towards the vehicle, fire a couple of warning shots with a pistol, dogs ran away. Job done, don't need to do anything else with them. If they're a bit persistent and they don't want to go away, well, then I'm changing my sights, right? And then I'm aiming it at the dog to drop it. So, yeah, your comments around shooting dogs and unarmed Afghan farmers, there's likely a whole bunch of other context and information that we are just not seeing, that we're not hearing, that we don't know, because, again, you and I weren't there. That's a bit of a hearty rant, eh? What's that? 36 minutes. It just shows how much this comment has sat with me here and here with regards to the regiment, because of my experience and my time there. And yeah, I'm gonna stick up for the regiment, right, in terms of what they do and how they've gone about doing things. I would never stick up for or condone anybody, whether they're a regiment or from anywhere, that's going around just being a murderer for the sake of being an idiot. Like, that's not part of what the unit is about, and that's not why the unit exists. But war is a very hard and challenging and complex place, and unless you're there on the ground and amongst it, seeing it, hearing it, feeling it, smelling it, tasting it, touching it, etc., then the rest, like you and I, is just us sitting in the peanut gallery, punching out the keyboard our thoughts and opinions around what we think is right, or what we think these people have done based on what somebody else has told us. So think about that for a sec. We're getting it second, third, fourth, or fifth hand by the time we're getting that information. And I will sit and put my face on the camera and talk about it, because I've got no problem talking about what I've experienced, what I've seen, and what I've witnessed firsthand, if that makes sense. Other people, like old knob jockey at J Bank here, 66 or 66, they won't put their face on camera because they know that they don't have any experience. They've got nothing to speak to other than what they've been seeing in the media. And that's where, again, I've spoken about the media has a lot of power and has a lot of influence in regards to what they do. And don't get me wrong, I have no doubt there is some media that use their platform for good. And then you've got some blinking twats like the airing BS constantly, or the ABC over in Australia, that have hidden agendas, that want to pay bribe money, that doctor and edit video footage to make their own people seem like murderers and or war criminals. And that is just, I just don't understand that. And there's no repercussions for them. So they can do all of this stuff, be found out that they've done these things illegally, hide behind the old, oh, I had nothing to do with the production and editing of it, sign off on checks to pay key witnesses large amounts of money, nearly $1 million, and there's no repercussions. On top of that, ask for that $700,000 bribe to be hidden and kept private for 50 years, more than 50 years or whatever it was, and still nothing. You still got knob jockeys like J Bank here who gobble up what the ABC are talking about. Hence why I mentioned at the start, there's likely many, many people that are aligned or thinking the same thing as what this clown is right now. So, yeah, if you stuck around this long and listened to me vent, for want of a better term, I can tell you what, I feel lighter now. As a result, I feel better. Just sort of spitballing a bunch of stuff that's been floating around up here as I've been doing other work, but looking at this comment, and I just gone, oh man, I'm going to do a video. No, you know what? I'm just going to do a live. I'm going to screenshot this. I'm going to save this. I did a post, and I thought, maybe the post will do. I'll just post it and then leave that there, and then like that'll be that. and like, nah, that wasn't enough. So I come back to do this live. So actually, I think there's a couple of people on here. Oh, chat. Sorry if there's questions in here. Let me have a look. There may be. Oh, there are some comments in here. Maybe not questions. Ben Hayes has got here. Hi, Billy. G'day from Queensland. G'day, bro. At Alex J-59. I just watched a video about this from a 2GB radio jock. Yeah, I just watched the video from 2GB. He said the investigation by the Australian authorities had cost $250 million. Yep, with only one charge coming from it. Yep. It's not the financial cost, it's the effect it's having on innocent members of the military. Yep. Bottom line, the overwhelming majority of the public support the troops. Well, that's good to hear. When you walk with death daily, you have to learn to dance with your demons as well. Yep, that's a great point, Billy. It is, if you know that you've acted with integrity and done the things that you were supposed to do, then yeah, 100%, like you should be able to hold your head up, and I'd like to think endure whatever backlash or perceptions or allegations come your way. But again, that's me speaking from my blinking ivory tower without having experienced what some of these guys who have sadly taken their lives as a result. And again, not having walked in their shoes, not having felt what they've felt and gone through, and the way things have been taken for them, and the potential impacts and ultimately devastating results that have happened because many of those soldiers have taken their lives. It's a sad and tragic thing to have happen. So anyway, appreciate everybody's time. Smiling here because I do actually feel better after venting some of my thoughts, and albeit probably scrambled as I've just let rip out of my face with regards to the thoughts that were buzzing around in my head on the back end of this comment. But maybe it lands with somebody out there somewhere, and that's cool. Thank you for the comment at Alex J. Yep, Alex J-59. If that is the general consensus that the majority support the troops, that's awesome. Like, stoked to hear that. Those maybe then, if that's the case, maybe the right term is minority. If the minority are still blinded or still got the blinkers on in terms of what they're seeing and or heard because so-and-so has said this, or that twat McKenzie has said all these other things, which, he's proven to be a liar and a bunch of other stuff as well in the media, then so be it. Nothing I or we can do about those ones. So anyway, take care, eh? Stay awesome. Keep smashing, man. Just keep whatever challenges, loneliness, miserable times, despair that you might be in at these times. My experience has been just keep turning up, be stubborn, be persistent, keep staying in the fight, put one foot in front of the other, take one day at a time, and just know and trust that things can do and will get better if you want them to. It's not easy, but they can and they will if you want them to, but you do have to want them to. So just keep fighting, stick at it. Those better days are closer than you and I think. So don't quit. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video or next rant from me, there's a big mana wave filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude coming to each of you. And until the next one, we'll end that there. Holy heck, that's like 43 minutes of me gas bagging. Maybe gaslighting, depending on who